Hello everyone and welcome to my channel So GPS. Big hello to you from Thailand where I currently am. I have been thinking quite a bit about narcissistic abuse, reading, doing research, talking to clients, and this topic that I wanted to talk about to you today has been coming up a lot lately. So I've given it some thought, some mulling over. I look back at my own couple of big scenarios that I have lived through in the last few years, and I wanted to come to you today with a very, what I think is empowering message about something that can scare off many of us empaths or codependents when it comes to facing the truth about us being in abusive relationships. And this message to you is, or that maybe the point of this is that how do you know? This is the investigation. How do you know that you have crossed the line, or that the narcissists have crossed the line? How do you know that this was the last time? How do you know that you have broken through to the other side? What is the sign? How will you know that there's something that just happened that offers the possibility of you reaching a state of a point of no return? And that moment is anger. It's righteous anger. And it is something that, you know, as a kind person, good person, a person who likes to please, a person who likes to do good things to people, a person who is very conscientious and puts other people's interests in front of other people. We're the people who have oftentimes suppressed these emotions, who shy away from this emotion, who feel threatened by anger, who are very much out of touch with anger. A lot of people I talk to, a lot of my clients, they are oftentimes so nice and they're so sweet and they just, you know, they can be quite in touch with the sadness and with the emotion, the grief that's engulfing them. But oftentimes when it comes to actually realizing the harm that's been done to them, they don't want to go there. They don't want to go to face the fiery emotion and say like, what the fuck just happened? That don't deserve this. This is enough. So I want to tell you that if you have been in a place where enough was enough, where you actually felt that surge of something happening within you, it's like a deep earthquake, a rumbling fire, listen to that and give yourself the self-love to let yourself experience it. And I don't mean like, you know, coming out and yelling at the narcissist or the abuser or the psychopath or whoever it is that you're dealing with, because that can of course add fuel to the fire and they're looking for that. So it's not so much that you come out screaming at them, but it's more like you notice it, and then ideally you find your own space to go into and process that in a safe zone. But don't ignore it, because once you get that emotion, that means this is a very high probability that they have crossed the line and that it's over for you, at least at a certain level, deep emotional level. This process of unwinding takes a while. It can take, I think the average is about a year of recovery. But in order to get yourself out of the situation, sometimes getting angry is like the greatest thing that can happen to us. You get really in touch with that fire. You get really in touch with your truth. And it might be, you know, like when does it happen, right? Like it might be that he or she, because it's absolutely gender neutral, this disorder transcends all divides. Maybe it was because you just found out there was just another lie on top of it that she or he were trying to cover. Maybe it was another criticism sent your way. Maybe it was another dig. You know, maybe it was another compliment that was cloaked. I mean, another criticism cloaked as a compliment. You know, something that was you feel very sensitive about, jabbed again, or something where you were getting really excited about it, about an event, about having met a new friend, or, you know, having come across something that really resonates with you, and they have to, of course, sabotage that, you know, or whether it is you having a good relationship with your child, them trying to sabotage them because they're extremely competitive and you can't outdo them in any way. And sometimes I found in my own experience that it was safer and better to keep things to myself and not to show my excitement about something, just so that I can actually relish it and cherish it, because otherwise they would come in and they would try to sabotage it, right? Or whether it is just yet another instance where you found out you're being smeared by other people. It could be a friend, right? It could be a coworker who has been spreading misinformation about you because they're jealous. It could be a boss that's been trying to, own you and is completely taking over your life. It could be another situation where blame is being shifted on you by your parent or by a sibling or by your significant other, soon not to be a significant other, hopefully. It could be any of those scenarios, but there's a point where we take it, we swallow it, we hold it, and we suppress it, and remember, suppression leads to depression. So if you suppress enough of your emotions, eventually all of that may implode, and that isn't something that you want to do. So anger is actually sort of like the antidote of depression. It is the turning point, so to speak. Maybe not complete antidote, because that requires more work. It can't happen in one instant, but getting in touch with that righteous anger, it's like a call for justice. It's that point when you're starting to feel your rumbling power coming from deep within your guts, and you finally get to say, enough. I'm not going to put up with this anymore. It's a really important, sacred moment. So again, if you have been feeling angry, but not that you've been able to express it, pay close attention. One of the things I would recommend that you do, if you feel that, again, I wouldn't so much confront the narcissist with it, because this can end really badly. And they're so good. They're like kids. They're so good at turning things around and making you take the blame, or you feeling guilty. And they indeed, when you think about this in this framework, that they are like underdeveloped kids, or kids that haven't grown. It's like the tactics that they use is like sandbox tactics, right? It's like what kids used to do with each other in the playground. It feels weird because they're adults. They're not supposed to do it this way. So in a way, we almost feel like it's sophisticated because we would have never done it. But these are really immature, low-level tactics. And the only reason why they may seem sophisticated for us is because they're so good at cloaking it, and they're very good at entrancing us into believing that they're actually on our side, that they're good, and until we become really dependent on them to the point where, especially emotionally, to the point where we turn into codependents. That's another video I'm going to make for you soon, how empaths become codependents. So when you're feeling that, when you're really deeply in touch with that anger, take note, and I would either literally put it down on a piece of paper, write down what you're feeling right now and why, or better yet, because it is such a fiery emotion that it implies speed, and sometimes writing, we can't write fast enough to kind of encapsulate out of it. I would record it. I would record it on your cell phone or on some other recording device that you may have, so that you can capture your voice, you can capture that moment and really express it, because anger has a tendency, especially for people who are not much in touch with it as much, like we tend to not to be the people who rage. It's usually the narcissist who rages. So we're like on the opposite pole of that spectrum. We tend to be calm and take it in and so on. So when we capture it, it tends to be, if it happens, it tends to be fleeting. It's fast. It comes and goes. It's like a quick flash storm. So that's why I think it's really important for you to capture it, to record it, and then listen to it again when you're feeling in doubt about whether this relationship is worth staying in. Because let me tell you, we're so good at making excuses. We're so good at justifying and rationalizing their behavior for them. Like, oh, but they didn't mean it, and they're struggling. They're poor people who, have been too hurt in their relationships, and it's true. Many of them have become this way because they sustained very intense developmental trauma. However, you are not the person who put that trauma there. You're not the parent, and yet you're treated as if you're the person who has caused it. And that's not fair. That's not fair towards you. And the best thing you can do for yourself and for the narcissist is put up the boundary and not put up with this. Because you're only, in that case, enabling. And enabling is very toxic, and dangerous. not only to yourself but also to them, because it's going to perpetuate the cycle. It's not going to do anything to help the narcissist. The only thing that can help the narcissist, and that's not your job, but the only thing that can help them is for them to have a moment of reflection, to realize like, oh gosh, I really fucked up. I really hurt this person, right? Which is not likely in most cases that they will reflect. Most of them are past that point of being able to reflect on themselves and look at things more from like another person's point of view, because it's all about them. But you can use that to your advantage or to their advantage in a way, and by removing yourself from the situation and setting a boundary that you're no longer going to accept abuse, when they feel like they're losing you, and then perhaps another person, happens enough, maybe, just maybe, they might at some point pause and realize that it's not you who did this, it's them, right? That it's them. And maybe they're at the stage where they know it's them and they just are enjoying it. So that's all the more reason to walk your own path and leave the relationship. So this is all up to you, what you're going to decide to do. What I would like to encourage you to do, and I always encourage that in all my videos, that's what this channel is all about, is ultimately trusting your intuition. If it feels bad to be around this person, that means that person isn't healthy, isn't good for you. It's never going to give you that the nourishment, the emotional sustenance that a sustainable relationship requires. So if that's something that you want, you're going to have to separate yourself from that and all those feelings, and give yourself the time to recover and find the peace and calm within yourself for two reasons. Number one, so you can get reconnected to your intuition and heal yourself from all this toxicity. But also number two, so that in the future, this ensures you against letting another person like that into your life. Because once you understand what peace and calm feels, and that it is self-generated, then when you're around another toxic person in the future, you're going to have a really strong visceral reaction against them, and you're not going to want to put up with it, because you would have known what you just went through, and you will not want to repeat that lesson. That's if you really fully hone in this lesson. And in that way, in that sense, this could be a fantastic opportunity, once in a lifetime opportunity, and you only really need this opportunity once. If you hone this lesson well, then you will not need to repeat it. And that's what's really sacred about this journey, is that it really awakens us to the truth of who we are, who the other person is, what is really good and what is evil, and that it is really our true responsibility in this life to stand up to what's not right, and live from a place that is more authentic and real, and nurture that and reward that, as opposed to rewarding negative behavior and letting the cycles perpetuate. So just one more note about myself and reflecting back on my relationship with anger. I had none. I didn't know that was okay. My father used to rage quite a bit in our house. Actually, so did my mom. They were arguing all the time. So I always thought that it was really bad. You know, I had a really negative association with it. And so then later on, when I got into a very toxic relationship, and I didn't really have much of a benchmark to compare it to something better, because all I have seen was negativity most of my life. That's what I've been a witness to for a long period of time. When I started to sustain regular abuse, that's what I would do, is I would just, whenever I would feel the anger come up, he was so good at shifting the blame and telling me, it's me, you're overreacting. One of his favorite statements, you're overreacting. And so for 9 years, I swallowed it. And eventually I got to the point where I felt like the Hulk, you know, I just wanted to explode from within. And I found that to be such a freeing moment. And when I finally internalized it and owned it and really understood what that was, and I confronted my partner, not with the rage, not with my rage or my anger, but I confronted him. It's kind of like staring down the wolf, you know, just I wouldn't waver anymore. When he was trying to do his trick on me, I would just stand there unmoved. And he saw it. He saw that I have crossed the line, and he just cowered. He backed away. He moved aside. It was really an interesting experience. So later on, you know, it became much easier for me to get in touch with it and say no to abuse. So this is something that I wish for you. I wish for you so that not so much that you get to experience anger a lot in your life, even though looking around at what's happening in the world, it may be the case, but learning how to process it and use it as a messenger, use this emotion as a way to understand when things are wrong and stand up for justice, first and foremost for yourself, in your own life, and then maybe also later on for another cause or for someone else. That's a great blessing. And that means when you can do that, that you have graduated from this stage and you're over it. You've seen it. You've seen through it. You've seen through the illusions. You've seen through the trance. You have awakened. And now you're back home. You've made it home. You're back in touch with your truth. And I want to congratulate you if you feel that way. And I want to encourage you to go deeper and to really listen to that angry voice, because that voice has immense power and carries with it a lot of truth. So capture it, record it, and act accordingly. And I wish you all the best wherever you are on your journey. Know that you are not alone. Know that you can do this, and know that a wonderful life awaits you if you begin to stand up for yourself. Thank you so much, and I will see you in another film.